kind of like your truck. Steering is in the front, drive is in the back. Same way with a horse. We don't want any front wheel drive horses. But that is the 3 leg positions that I use on all my horses. They all work the same way. With those positions, I can control where he looks and what we're doing. Let's say, did a video not long ago about the resistance in the face comes from the feet. And one of the questions that came up in that video where people were commenting was, what all was my leg doing? I was using my leg to break that resistance loose that made the face softer. But I need to go a little bit more in depth to what I do with my legs and what part my legs play in the whole movement of the horse. What I have is I have 3 positions that I use my legs. One position, this is actually number 2 position, but I'm going to go over it first, is right where my leg hangs. I use that to ask the horse to pick his back up. What I'll do with that position is I'll make my contact and then I kind of bring my heel up. Keep my heels down still, but I'm drawing my whole foot up to lift his back up. I'm not just pushing in, I'm actually lifting, pulling my legs up. I'm going to move him around a little bit and you'll see a little bit better view of it while I'm moving. So I'll take my spurs, make contact, and lift. Lift with my spurs. So I'll squeeze with my spurs, and lift. And lift. All I want to happen here is I want his back to lift up. And lift. Okay, that's the number 2 position. That's the middle position where my foot hangs. The number 1 position, front, is going to be right behind the girth. This is the position that I use to move the shoulders. If I push, his shoulders should go this way. If I push on my right leg, his shoulders are going to go that way. That's where my steering starts to come in. It's kind of like your truck. Steering is in the front, drive is in the back. Same way with a horse. We don't want any front wheel drive horses. All our horses need to be rear wheel drive. So I'll push with my right leg, open the door with my left, he's going to go to the left. Push with my left leg, open the door to the right. He's going to go to the right. I'm pushing right here behind the girth. I actually move my leg forward just a little bit. This is neutral. This is where the number 1 position is. Number 3 position, I'm going to go from neutral and move my leg back, which is going to be right by my back girth. That's going to push his hip over. Do that again. I'll use my right leg, slide it back to number 3 position, push the hip over. I want his body to continue traveling the direction we were before I started pushing his hip. This is a cue that I use a lot. Probably use the hip in cue for a lot of things that you never think about. I actually use that cue to slow my horse down. Talk about that in a few minutes. Right leg in the hip, left leg in the hip. Now watch what his head does in relation to what my legs do. If I put my leg up by the girth and tell him to go left, his head goes left. I expect his head to do certain things in relation to what my leg's doing. So I can control his head. I can bring his head left by pushing its girth. I can bring his head right by pushing with my left leg right behind the girth. That's the number 1 position. That steers the shoulders. All my steering is in the shoulders. I don't ever use the hip to steer. I'll engage the hip, tell the hip to go forward. That's my motor. I don't ever steer with my motor. My motor is always pushing forward. All my steering is in the front. I'll push again with my left leg. Watch, I'll open my right. Shoulders go to the right, head goes to the right. Now if I take my number 3 position and push. I'm pushing the hip that way, the head goes that way. For the number 3 position, with the hip engaged, the head needs to go the same way the hip does. This is very important, because if you have the hip going one way and the head going the opposite way, you're going to drag your lead changes. Hip right, head right. He's really good with that, and that's why he has such good lead changes. Because when I push his hip, I'll push his hip to the left, head goes to the left. That is a big key in having good lead changes. So that is the 3 positions that I use my legs and the 3 things that I use my legs for. The leg always means to get off of pressure. If I'm pushing with this leg, my right leg, I expect something to go left. If I'm pushing in the middle, I'm going to expect the middle to go left, which is basically a side pass. I don't have contact with my left leg. Come towards you so you can see that again. I'm going to push with my left leg in the middle where it hangs, and that's my side pass. If I push the shoulders, I expect the shoulders to go. If I push the hip, I expect the hip to go. Sometimes with my hand, I'll slow down his forward. Slow down moving forward so I can get more lateral. Whoa. Sometimes if I ask for a body movement and his head goes the opposite way, I'll pick up my rein and I'll fix the head movement. But that is the 3 leg positions that I use on all my horses. They all work the same way. With those positions, I can control where he looks and what we're doing. Let's say, straighten him up a little bit. Let's say I'm running a cow right here. We're running down the fence, cow's on the right. I can take my right leg and give him a little bit of a push. Look where that head went. I can control that head on the cow. If I'm working a cow and I lose his attention on the cow, I can put his head back on that cow. I can bring his head back over and put it back on that cow without picking my reins up. That's going to help my score. There, I brought his head that way. That's going to help my score. That's also going to help my cow work. I'm going to get this shoulder up out of the way for a fence turn. I talked about that in another video. I want to get as much done with my legs and my seat as I can for certain things. Doesn't mean I don't ever pick up and pull on them. I will. But I will use those 3 leg positions. Thinking back up. I will use those 3 leg positions for a lot. And see right there, I was telling him to go forward and he backed up instead. Not going to fuss at him about it. I just tipped his nose and said, let's go this way. Never going to fuss at a horse for misunderstanding instruction. I'm going to lope off and lope a couple of circles. I'm going to show you something else I use that leg cue for. The leg and the hip that I bet you never dreamed of.